I've just handed out some notes, and that is the dependent origination and cessation. I talked about this before, but it's good to learn it again so that we know what it means. What we have been chanting, we have a book in here, we've been chanting, actually we are chanting in a few languages. The first one is Pali. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa is in Pali. And then the mantra of compassion, Namo Ratnatrayaya Namariya Valagitisparaya Buddhasadavaya Mahasadavaya Mahakarunikaya is in Sanskrit. And then the Heart Sutra, we chant it in English. We didn't chant anything in Chinese, otherwise it would be 4 languages. But this here is in Pali. The difference between Sanskrit and Pali, not very much different. There's slight differences. But if you chant in Chinese, the Chinese language is quite different from the English language. But the English language it comes from the Latin family. And this Pali and Sanskrit is quite close to Latin. So you will find that if North Americans chant in Pali and Sanskrit, it will be easier to chant than in chanting in Chinese. Anyway, the Chinese chanting is translated from Sanskrit. So why don't we just revert to the origin? So we prefer to chant in Pali or Sanskrit. Why 2 languages, Pali and Sanskrit? In the time of the Buddha, in India, there's so many languages, maybe more than 100 dialects. But the most common are 2, Sanskrit and Pali. Sanskrit is a language used by the mass population. A lot of people speak in Pali. The royal family, the higher level, the Brahmins, they spoke in Sanskrit. And the Brahmin, being the high royal class, they don't want the populace to speak Sanskrit because it's a privileged language. They thought it's a privileged language. So some of the philosophies, ceremonies were preserved in Sanskrit and not in Pali because they think that we are the higher class and people who speak Pali are the lower class. We want to preserve those prestigious philosophies, ceremonies in Sanskrit. But more and more, when the Buddha preached in both languages, Pali and Sanskrit. So this dependent origination is in Pali. Now why don't we you listen to how I pronounce it. It's Paticca Samuppada. Paticca Samuppada, everybody knows, right? Are you reading the notes now? Paticca Samuppada, that means dependent origination, or the 12 links, the 12 link chains of origination. These 12 link chains of origination explain the relationship between existence, suffering, and ignorance. It explains life. Where did we come from? How do we get born in this life? What is the origin? People like to know. The origin is dependent origination. The origin depends on another cause. People like to ask, how come we come to this world? And they always look for a simple answer. I'm produced, I'm created. I must be created by someone. It's a very simple answer to a very complicated question. But the Buddha said, you come to this world because of dependent origination. So dependent origination, the 12 dependent origination explain a lot about life, about the experiences of life, about where you're from, how do you come here, why you're what you are today. Basically, there are 2 kinds of people practicing Buddhahood. The Pratyeka Buddha and the Stravaka. Pratyeka Buddha, those practitioners live at a time when there's no Buddhism, no teaching of Buddhism. So they ponder on life. They ponder on the 12 dependent origination. They ponder about life, they think about life, they meditate on the experiences of life, and they got enlightened by themselves. So that you always ponder on dependent origination, you meditate on dependent origination, you get enlightened. So these are the summaries that you should ponder on, you should meditate on. I will just read it first. Avijja Pachaya Sankara. Sankara Pachaya Vinanam. Vinana Pachaya Nama Rupam. Nama Rupam Pachaya Salayatanam. Salayatanam Pachaya Passo. Passa Pachaya Vedana. Vedana Pachaya Tanha. Tanha Pachaya Upadanam. Upadana Pachaya Bhavo. Bhava Pachaya Janti. Janti Pachaya Jara Maranam. Sukha Paridava Dukkha Domanas Upayasa Sambhavanti. Eva Mitasa Kevalasa Dukkha Kantasa Zamudayo Hoti. Now that's the 12 dependent origination. And some people sing it out with a melody. And I've heard about the melody, it's a very good melody. Avijja Pachaya Sankara. They have a melody to chant it. But in the future, we can chant it in a melody. If you chant it all the time and meditate on all the time, that means you're pondering on it. You're trying to find out the mysteries of life. You're trying to find out what life means, the experiences of life. Buddhism is about the mind, not about believing in a Buddha and the Buddha will give you the blessings. Not that simple. It's about practicing your own mind to achieve enlightenment. So let's go to the first one. Avijja Pachaya Sankara. Dependent on ignorance, volitional reaction arises. Avijja. Avijja, what does avijja mean? Avijja means ignorance in Pali. You're learning, right now you're learning the Pali language at the same time. Avijja. Avijja Pachaya Sankara. So avijja is ignorance. Depending on ignorance, Sankara means volitional reaction or mental formation arises. That it also, if we use another way to express it, the condition why volitional reaction arises is because of ignorance. Because of our ignorance, then volitional reaction arises. Now that is just a broad summary about the first link of dependent origination. Just by reading that and knowing dependent on ignorance, volitional reaction arises. You may not know what it means. What does that mean? Let's deal with it in detail, one by one. Dependent on ignorance, volitional reaction arises. What does ignorance mean? Why do we have ignorance? Where does ignorance come from? Ignorance comes from where? Some people say ignorance comes from you. Your ignorance will infuriate me. They always blame the other guys. They always blame the whole world. They blame the community, they blame the country, they blame the president, they blame the ministers about all these things that are brought forward to them for the suffering. Ignorance comes from the individual. And yeah, it comes from individual. Where does it come from? From my hands? From my feet? It comes from my mind, right? Ignorance comes from the mind. The mind becomes ignorant. It from the mind, then why from the mind? In what form ignorance comes from the mind? In the form of mental afflictions. What are these mental afflictions? If we deal it in a little bit of more details, we say ignorance are mental afflictions that we have currently, right now. Ignorance, mental affliction. What is mental afflictions? And we open up the newspaper, we say, oh, because of ignorance, people make mistakes. People make mistakes because of ignorance. What are these mistakes? These mistakes make from, say, jealousy, greediness, hatred, violence, disappointment, fear, depression, paranoid. What others? If you go down the list, it will be very, very long. All these are ignorance. The most obvious is, of course, greediness. The next is hatred. Then jealousy, shamelessness, remorselessness, fraudulence, cheating, deceitful. I mean, you name them. Ignorance comes from this. Because of all these mental afflictions, when these mental afflictions originate from the mind, they don't just stop there. All these mental afflictions are the hidden karmic energy inside the mind. They're hidden. They're hidden now, but they're looking for expression. The greediness is not just hidden in there and that's it. It's hidden, but when the time matures, it seeks expression and becomes expressed karmic energy. The greediness will manifest into stealing. The greediness for sexual behavior will manifest into misconduct. The hidden energy of hatred will manifest into killing, fighting, struggling. So all these hidden karmic energy will find its expression by expressing it and carry into actions. So ignorance would not just be there, residing in there, hidden in there, it would find manifestation. When ignorance finds manifestation through the mouth, what would ignorance become? Lying, cursing, flattery, double tongue. What else? Can you think? I can't think about any more right now. Try to find some more. I always think of a workshop where everybody give me a piece of paper, and when we say, what are the ignorance? Please write them down on a piece of paper. Whoever get the most will get an award. So there's a lot of these things. So ignorance, hidden ignorance, when it seeks expressions through the mouth, through speech, will become cursing, lying, double-tongued, deceitful flattery. And when these things get expressed, manifested, they don't just manifest and that's it. All these produce energy. All these manifestation, if its nature is good, it becomes good energy. If its nature is bad, it becomes bad energy. If its nature is neutral, it becomes neutral energy. So what kind of energy you produce every day through speech, you tell me. I'm always kind and compassionate. I always give words of comfort. I always go to nursing homes and hospitals and I comfort hospice care, dying patients. Well, that's good energy. Because you're comforting, your language is comforting. When you're all producing lying, cursing, you people, how You know road manners? Do you know how to drive? Curse each other. Yeah? Cursing, fighting. Have you seen anybody getting down cars and fight? I've seen one last year. They literally get down a car and start to fight. That's an expression of not just speech, of behavior. Ignorance, hidden form, mental affliction, always trying to find expression. Its nature contains three kinds of natures. It's either good, bad, or neutral. Which one you want to produce? Sometimes it's involuntary. You don't know. You just, whenever, you react accordingly, according to your own background, your own education, your own karmic energy that induces you to produce. But volitional reaction, that means a manifestation of this ignorance. Now when it manifested in forms of behavior, the Buddha generally summarized it in forms of behavior. Ignorance manifested in forms of behavior, we summarize it in three ways. What are these? Killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Killing. I don't kill. We're killing every day, do you know? We kill animals for food. You visit slaughterhouses, we kill millions of animals every day. Pigs, cows, goats, you name all these animals, you kill them every day. And you're telling me we're not killing? We kill animals for fur. We kill seal for the fur, for the skin. We kill animals for the mink coat. We kill every day. Not just killing animals, international wars, genocide. If you know history, you should tell me. You would know. We manifest our hidden ignorance into killing. Not just killing, into stealing. And this stealing has a lot of connotation that contain in it. Not just literally shoplifting. Greediness dominates you in the signing of contract, in confiscation of properties. If you are officials in the government, you want to confiscate as many properties as possible, and you want to acquire as much as possible through illegal means. That's stealing. Falsification of contract. Many of these stealing acts manifest in various forms. I can't tell you. Ask a lawyer how stealing would fit into all kinds of greediness. Sexual misconduct. You know, what have you done? Prostitution, one night stand. All these are sexual misconduct. The sexual misconduct itself, if both parties agree, still will fumigate your consciousness, will fumigate in your purity of your consciousness. But a lot of sexual misconduct would lead to many illegal acts, like killing because of jealousy. Have you seen Fatal Attraction, that movie? You should see it again. You thought you have a good affair. You can't get rid of it. So it's manifested in behavior, manifested in stealing, in sexual misconduct, in killing. That's the behavior. On the other hand, not just the behavior you manifested is not just bad. Sometimes you're helpful, you're courteous, you're kind, you're compassionate. Those are good behavior. Good causes would lead to good effects, and bad causes will lead to bad effects. It's not just you do bad things all the time. Maybe in some people, in 80% of the time, they only do good things. They're morally, their moral conduct is high. They only want to do good things. Good things will produce, good causes will produce good effects. Bad causes will produce bad effects. Neutral ones will produce neutral effects. Depending on ignorance, volitional reaction arises. So if it's in the form of behavior, it's stealing, killing, and sexual misconduct. How about volitional reactions in the form of speech? Cursing. Did you curse before? Lying. Do you lie? Flattery. Double tongue. All these will lead to dire consequences to some people. It could mean death. It could mean imprisonment. In many countries, because of lying, a lot of people get complications in legal cases, which lead to execution. So all this volitional reaction arises. Because of ignorance would lead to all this volitional reaction, and these volitional reactions, when it's hidden, it gets manifested into karmic energy, and this karmic energy would produce karmic effects, would give you the karma. So we invisibly carry within ourselves an invisible bag of karma. You produce good karma because you've done good things all the time. You produce bad karma because you've done bad things all the time. Why are people different? Some people are healthy, some people are always sick, some people are rich, some people are poor, some people are handsome, some people are ugly. Why is everybody different? Some people are intelligent, some people are have a lot of stupidity. Why? Because they produce their own karma, which dominates their life. Don't blame God, or don't praise God for what you've got, and don't blame God for what you haven't got. You do it with your own hands. You create your own world, your own destiny. When all these volitional reactions will carry out karmic energy. If you only produce good karma, you'll be rich, you'll be handsome, you'll be healthy. If you produce bad karma, it's just the opposite for you. So that first chain is depending on ignorance, all this volitional reaction arises. These volitional reactions will produce karma. Will this karma dominate us in reincarnation, in our life cycle, in our samsara? This has been dominating us. If we get sick, it's because of karma. If we encounter certain things we don't want, it's because of karma. Everything is because of our own karma. Did God give you this karma? No. Did Buddha give you this karma? No. You create your own karma. You are the creator of your own destiny. Do you want to be a good creator or bad creator? Of course you want, first of all, to create good karma. But even good karma is not the ultimate way to go. Why? If you read the Heart Sutra further, you will know that even good karma is karma. All karma we must get rid of to be enlightened. Because if you get good karma, your next life will be good. Say if you have done all the good things in the world, and in your next life you're a multi-billionaire, for example, just give an example. Because of what you have done. Because you're so generous, you donated so much, you've done a lot of good things, you're both healthy and you're also a billionaire. When you become a billionaire, what happened to you? You're driving a good car, you're living in a mansion, so you have a lot of girlfriends now. You don't look for them, they come to you. Why? Because you have a lot of money. These people who want to get close to you will flock in. And you, being influenced by all of them, would produce another chain of karma. You have a few billion dollars, and a finance guy said that you want to multiply that because you have 6 billions now, but look, every year you are spending 2 millions. So you have 6 billions, and one day you will dry up your treasuries. Why don't you multiply it? We have investment avenues that you can go by. You can do this, you can do that, you can do this. You can get into fraudulent misrepresentations also. You can get into a lot of, well, if you do it this way, you multiply faster. So you're seeking ways to increase your wealth. You're seeking ways to add on to your karmic energy. So look, you were good before in your previous life. You become a billionaire now. You're a billionaire now. You're building up bad karma again. We're living in that cycle. So the Buddha said even good karma has to be purified. You got to let go of everything. Good or bad, letting them all go. So dependent on ignorance, volitional reaction arises. Avidya paccaya sankhara. So that avidya paccaya sankhara contains a lot of philosophy in it, a lot of experiences in it, a lot of information in it. You ponder on it, think about it. That's why the Pratyeka Buddha, without the teacher teaching him on Buddhism, can enlighten himself, because when he meditates, how come avidya, how come ignorance breeds volitional reactions, and these reactions will bring karma, so I'm going to watch my action. The next one is sankhara paccaya vijnanam. Dependent on volitional reaction, consciousness arises. What does that mean? How come dependent on volitional reaction, consciousness arises? What does this consciousness mean? This consciousness is like the field in which you have a lot of seeds. An immense land of field, of vegetation contains so many of these seeds. All these seeds are the volitional reactions, the karmic energy that is hidden in that field of vegetation. All these are seeds. All this karmic energy, they don't go away. They don't disintegrate it. No energy will just disappear. It just changes form. Energy does not disappear. It just changes form. It's just like our body change. This life, I'm Venerable Guan Cheng, and this life you're Li, and next life I don't know. It could be Jason, it could be Bill, it could be William, it could be Jeanette. You're changing your form all the time. But the consciousness doesn't change, containing all these seeds. This consciousness is responsible for rolling into the next form. All this karmic energy, volitional reaction that build up this karmic energy, get all planted in the fields with all these seeds. You think you can get away with it? None of your action, good or bad, you can get away with it. It would get you. If you do bad things, you think nobody knows about it. No. It's hidden in your field of consciousness. You've done good things, you say, oh, I've done something good, but nobody knows about it. Maybe I shouldn't do any good things. You think nobody knows? You already have planted that seed in that field. It won't go away. Every thought is a seed in your field of energy, in your consciousness, in your field of consciousness. How big is his consciousness? As big as the universe. So, depending on ignorance, volitional reaction arises. Depending on volitional reaction, consciousness arises. That means we build up this consciousness in us. You, me, every individual, you have that consciousness. We call it the alaya consciousness, the vijnana, the alaya vijnana. This alaya vijnana, in some of the religion, they call it the soul. That's the soul. But we don't call it the soul. Because if you call it the soul, it's not comprehensive. We call it the alaya consciousness. That alaya consciousness is invisible, but it's extremely powerful. That's your mind. That's also part of it is your mind. That consciousness, part of it is your mind. And Buddhism is the study of that consciousness.